Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here. We got a special report for you today. It's not very often when you get to have a congressman on a channel like Third Phase of Moon to speak about disclosure and the cover-up of the UFO phenomenon. So today, I'm pleased to announce Congressman Tim Burchett is joining us on Third Phase of Moon to discuss all the possibilities of disclosure and also where we are today in regards to finding out the truth from our government officials. So without further ado, let's bring on Congressman Burchett. Tim, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us at Third Phase of Moon.
I'm great, Blake. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a very important issue, and I'm glad that we're addressing it.
You know, absolutely. It's an important issue. We've been trying to find out the truth for a long time, longer than I've been involved. I've been doing this for about 14 years on our channel. We're bringing the latest UFO evidence from the public. We have thousands of UFO videos that the people out there have submitted to us, and we've been sharing it to the public and asking questions. What are these objects in the skies? And I know you're on the forefront. There's not many congressmen such as yourselves that have been so advocate in regards to it. I see you on these channels, and you're saying there's a huge cover-up by the Pentagon. So let's just start it out right there. What is the Pentagon covering up, in your opinion?
Well, I said after the hearing, you know, during the Intelligence Committee, which was an open meeting, so they weren't really talking about too much that we would consider confidential or intelligence. And I said I was the only congressman that attended it that wasn't on the committee, and not all the members of the committee were even there. And I just said, we got hosed. And we did get hosed. The cover-up continues. The hearing was a joke. The witnesses had limited knowledge. You know, they showed a video, which I thought was unusual, because here we are, the most technologically advanced country in the world. I mean, there's no question. I mean, maybe China, you know, whatever. But here we are showing a video. A guy has a cell phone, and he is taking a video inside the canopy of his jet as this object, they're flying by it at a super fast rate of speed. And one of the congressmen, Adam Schiff, who I don't agree with on anything, we're friends, but I don't agree with him on anything. And he says, he asked the most profound question. He said, what exactly am I looking at here? And so as I went to state the most technologically advanced country in the world, a 20-second video clip. And, you know, Blake, they couldn't even stop the video to show what they were showing us. And, you know, I kept looking at as everybody else, I'm sure, did, the glare. And I've seen enough of these things to look where you're not supposed to look. So I looked off to the side, and I see this little speck, and, you know, it just shoots by. And so he gets up there, and he's trying to stop the video. He can't even stop the dadgum video to show it. You know, he said, well, I'll have to, you know, he says, he asked the girl there, and I thought, you know, I needed my 15-year-old daughter, Isabel, up there to explain how to stop the video, because she could have probably done it, you know, like that, as these young kids can do today. But, and so I just, you know, you got the famous, the Tic Tac video, which is one everybody talks about. Had a Navy pilot there, Blake, a Navy pilot who had seen that, who was actually in the air, I believe, when part of for the Tic Tac video, and he wasn't even asked to testify. They told me before I was going to get to ask some questions. So, and then when my time was getting close to where I would speak, they texted me and said, no, in fact, you're not going to get to ask a question. So, you know, the cover up continues. The good thing is that we've got these videos that are getting out, and they're Navy pilots, the best pilots in the world, no question. And here's two things we can eliminate: Russia and China. Russia, I mean, literally, you know, in the beginning of the last century, they were pushing around. They had carts there, and they were having mules pull everything around. They were, you know, China. Well, Russia. Let's go back to them. If it was Russia, I mean, with Putin's ego, I mean, dadgummit, he would land a UFO on the White House lawn, get out bare chested, probably ride a unicorn over and wrestle Joe Biden, get back on the unicorn, get back in the UFO and fly back to Russia. I mean, honestly, if it was China, they would own us. So let's just rule that out. It's both, neither one of them. It's not Nazi UFOs. The Nazis had UFOs. We would all be goose stepping and God knows what else horrible thing they would inflict upon us. So we can rule that out. So what is it? It's either a craft that we've recovered from outer space, from another galaxy or another civilization, whatever that would look like, or that we are reverse engineering and trying to figure out what's going on, or it is an alien of somebody. It's just completely alien, and it's coming from outer space. I sort of go back and forth, but you have to realize that most of this is within military installations, so they have to know where it is and what's going on. And you would think, well, that's got to be our military then, the reverse engineering. But if they were, they would not risk our own pilots in those operations, I don't think, because we've had, and they admitted in the hearing, I believe they said we've had around 14 or so close calls, which means they were within range of running into one. So I think what we've got is, I think it's I honestly do. I think it's something from outer space. I think it's, and I'm a Christian. I'm not a very good one. I'm not trying to save your soul, but I want you to know where I'm coming from with this. In the Bible, the first chapter of Ezekiel, it talks about Ezekiel seeing the wheel, and it's an elaborate definition, but you got to realize it's a King James. King James has interpreted that and put it in Old English, so that, that his people could understand it. So, but in those times, though, the most technologically advanced object was a wheel. I mean, that was it. There's no computers. There's no, 8-track tape players would be space age to these folks. All right. I mean, the leisure suit hasn't been invented, nothing. Leonard Skinner has never been played on the airwaves. I mean, so you're talking about, something that they saw, and the only thing they could equate it to was a wheel. So, and you look on Aztec drawings inside the pyramids, you just go through history, and Dark Ages, our art from way back shows something that you and I would describe as saucer-shaped craft in several of the drawings or paintings. And so something's been visiting this earth for a long dadgum time. And I was told by one of the members, this is what we got to watch, though. One of the members said, Burchett said, we got important things to deal with. This is not important. But what is more important than something that is flying in our military airspace that we have no control over? To me, that is incredibly important, and that it is it's something that we need to address. And the Pentagon has been part of this cover up, and maybe Roswell happened. Maybe there's been several other, and it's international. It's not just America. It's China has it. Russia has it. All major countries report it. Central America seems to be a hotbed, but I think a lot of that's, I think it's a lot of it is hoaxes down there. But I believe we're being visited, and people say, well, should we be scared? That's the next question. And I say, no, we should not. I don't think we should, because with their technology compared to ours, if they wanted to wipe us out, I mean, it'd be just like
they would have done it a long time ago.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah. I just don't think that's in the realm. And I go back to my faith too. People say, well, Burchett, you're a Christian. How can? Well, I go out at night every night when I'm back home in Tennessee, and I'm very fortunate. I live on a farm. There's not a lot of light pollution. And, I look at the lightning bugs. They come out about 9 o'clock every night. And then the stars come out, and I think, and I look at those stars, dude, and I'm thinking the light from those stars left. That's before the time of Christ. And some of them are from stars that have already collapsed that we're seeing. I mean, in the vastness of God's great universe, do you think that we are the best that God can do? And I submit to you, no, we are not the best that God can do. And so I'm fascinated by it. I've been fascinated since I was a kid. I've talked to scientists. I've talked to Navy pilots, and the best people. And it's coming out. And it's coming out now. It's really due to folks like yourself, brother, that aren't afraid to talk about it. And I talked to a group of congressmen tonight, Congress people, I should say, men and women, about the situation. And I sort of talked to them about it, and I get the, oh, little green man, Burchett, beam me up kind of stuff from some of them. But it's getting more and more mainstream. And it's because of folks like you. And, and how I got involved with it. I mean, I've been involved with it since I was a kid. My parents dropped me. They would probably now be written up by children's services. But my parents, they dropped me off at the library and just leave me there and say, walk home. I'd say, great. I mean, back then you could do it in the 70s in Knoxville, Tennessee, but I would go to the library and and they set these tables up of the unknown. They have something on ghosts or goblins and stuff like that. And then they'd have Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and
we
UFO.
did the same thing. We were looking at the Loch Ness Monster, the UFO books. They had Walters, Gulf Breeze, Ghost, The Phenomenon. That's what caught our interest. But let's go back to a couple questions. Let's just say right now, the Webb telescope. Webb is bringing out some astounding pictures of the universe. Let's just say if they so happen to catch a starcraft or something massive out there, would they send it to? Would they reveal it to the public, or would they keep it a secret? Is NASA being straight with us?
I don't.
Apparently, they're getting in the UFO hunt right now too. They say
they are. They are. I tell you what, they're going to have to do. What Congress is going to have to do. They're going to have to attach dollars to it. Research dollars. Oak Ridge National Laboratory in my backyard, not in my district, but in my backyard, has the most powerful computer in the world right now. That's the kind of thing that these I think these national labs and universities are going to have to start doing, and then Congress is going to start looking at it and looking at ways to fund it to get to an answer. If we turn up the heat on us, when I say we, the American public turns it up, not on the Tim Burchett's of the world. I'm already there. I know we got to do something. We better find out. I think we need to find out.
So with this evidence coming in from NASA, for the years of Third Phase of Moon, we've been keeping a close eye on them. They're one of the most biggest archives of the UFO phenomenon that exists right now. We could tell NASA, go back to this date, go back to this ISS footage, and let's start there. And again, we have hundreds of videos from NASA themselves that they refuse to explain to the public what they're capturing. How can we change the narrative of NASA to be a little bit more of a straight answer instead of never a straight answer?
We got to get more people than me in Congress that are going to ask those tough questions. It's a bipartisan issue. There's several congressmen that are doing it. Some of them I suspect mainly just because they're catching heat back home. They don't truly believe it, but it really doesn't matter if we can get to the same conclusion. I think. Sorry.
Hey,
that's taxpayer savings. If you don't move after a little bit, it'll come on and turn off. But
what would it take? Like, let's just say, Tim, if we gave you some videos, here's some really compelling video of the phenomenon. Where do we go from there? Are we going to go to this new UFO office? Like you said, they weren't able to even present a still frame. Their presentation at the Congress was laughable. And these eyewitnesses, witnesses, whether they're incompetent or they're lying is a question. They didn't even know about some basic historical facts in regards to the phenomenon.
Yeah, I think what's going to have to really happen, and we can dig around, we can go around the edges, and you're going to have to, one of two things. You're going to have a president that says enough is enough. Turn them loose. I don't want to hear any more of this. I mean, we still won't release the Kennedy files. That they're all redacted so much, look like Swiss cheese. There is nobody alive that we could embarrass. There's nobody on this earth that we could embarrass with that, but yet we still won't release them. I think what's going to happen with UFO, we're going to have somebody on the inside who's going to have to leak it. He's going to have to leak some stuff, photographs.
Would that be in danger with breaking the NDAs? And
Yeah,
again, maybe
absolutely.
it's an illegal.
They risk going to jail. They
But
will.
what if what they're revealing is an illegal operation? Therefore, it'd be covering something that's illegal. So then there wouldn't be any.
You trust the crooks to give you a fair trial? No, no. Man, the swamp is deep, brother, and the industrial war complex is real. What I think is that if it's out, if it's not within a government agency, and if it is, you've got somebody, very few people that know, and the people that do know are dying off pretty quick, and it's very compartmentalized. Remember I go back to Oak Ridge National Laboratory, helped build the bomb during the Second World War. Thousands of people working on this project, yet nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it. The way I got elected is I knock on doors, because the Tim Burchetts of the world are not going to go down to the country club and raise all the money, and all the big boys are going to love me and shower me with gifts. I got to go out and knock on doors. I knock on thousands of doors, brother. I'm down in area Farragut, Tennessee. It's part of Knox County, and it borders up with Oak Ridge, Anderson County over there. So I'm knocking on doors. I meet a guy who worked on the bomb. He said, literally, Tim, I think he said worked on something that dealt with the fuse. He really didn't know he just knew what his little section was. He didn't discuss it with anybody else because it was a national security. They were trying to beat the Germans and the Japanese, and that was their focus. But you don't have that today. I mean, you have somebody walking out with a cell phone as soon as they hear something, and boom. I mean, I go to these confidential meetings when I first got elected, and I'd go down there, and I remember one of the older guys, older Democrat, was a buddy of mine. I said, let me get this straight. If I'm 30 minutes late, I can probably catch this on CNN. And he laughed and said, "You're exactly right. You can catch it on CNN, because this is a very porous thing, and that's all anybody's trying to do is get the one up on everybody else. So there's no loyalty to the country or loyalty like that. So, but here, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Well, I'm just thanks for letting me ask these questions, because I know we got a limited amount of time. But
no, you're fine.
I appreciate you joining us again.
I don't think government has a lot of these answers. I think it's been farmed out to huge business that controls a lot of billions of dollars, and they have access to something, a craft or this material or whatever, or propulsion system, and they are trying to reverse engineer it. And I think that's where it's at. If it's out there, and somebody somewhere is going to
crack the code.
Is going to have to say, "I've got this. Here's the video. Here's the picture," and do the news right then, because they don't. I mean, this is freaking Washington. They'll have committed suicide by shooting themselves 5 times in the back of the head.
So you think if we could find a whistleblower, somebody that could leak the evidence in regards to this propulsion craft, if they get it out fast enough, there's going to be some protection there. And this is something we've been proposing for a long time. Again, you said we have a few choices, either TT or maybe we built it within a private corporation. I'm kind of leaning with the Tic Tac. I'm leaning towards a private corporation. Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works. Their propulsion systems, they contract to the military, so therefore they're kind of immune to any FOIA request. What would it take to get into some of these companies that I just referenced, to maybe see how far advanced their propulsion systems are? How far advanced do you think our technology in regards to propulsion really is to this date, that's being suppressed for national security reasons from our adversaries not knowing? But how far advanced do you think we really are? And could the Tic Tac be a private corporation tech?
I don't think they could control it if they had it, because what this does is defy what we know is physics. Although I have been explained by some people I know that are, I'll just say, very knowledgeable about the subject and what's going on in this country. And some folks have approached me, and they have explained to me that in fact this is within Einstein's theory of relativity, and they explained to me that how this could exist with our within what we know, with what some of the advanced people. I mean, it's not the
It's
Tim
not
Burchett.
defying physics. It's just something that we figured out that seems to defy physics, but it's still within the laws of
Yes,
physics.
yes, sir. I think so.
You know, the Tic Tac, the gimbal, the Go Fast, these videos that are public, unfortunately, we only get bits and pieces. They're really blurry. There's nothing in there that shows anything even closely defying define the laws of physics. They're really mundane. Have you had access to more of the footage, the beginning and the end? Or have you seen anything that really defies physics? Because so far we have not seen anything from the government that impresses me. You know, we have better video from the public that would blow that out of the water.
Yeah, I would say that I'm with you on that. I have, and I have to be careful because I meet with these folks all the time, and one of my fears is that they're going to bring somebody in, and you know they've already started the political hacking at me in the district and putting they're. I have no doubt that my opponent will shower me with disparaging remarks about this and stuff, and that's fine. I take that risk. I'm like you. I'm angry and I'm ready to get something out. I think the American public is there's enough people that think like we do, and I have to this point. I'll just say I've seen more from unsecured sources than I have from within the government, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Obviously, they're holding on to these videos either to not reveal the mundaneness of it, or maybe they're showing something that would, scare our adversaries. But
sure, and I have some pretty compelling stuff. People that have, it's more, I guess, like a deathbed confession kind of thing, and it's dated.
All those people at Roswell, nobody even lives from. They're all passed away. And,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you remember when the Air Force gave that Roswell case closed, they did that thing, and they had that overweight Air Force officer, and he was kind of a smart aleck, had this little smirk on his face. And mom and daddy are both in heaven now, but daddy was pretty good judge of character. And I was a young man, but daddy and I watched that. And he's an old Marine, World War II combat veteran in the Pacific. And he said that guy's full of it. He said he's not legit. And it was just a bad look, I thought, for the Air Force and for our intelligence altogether. And to say that those dummies, were something that it was from 3 years later, that it was two different things. And a guy finds a weather balloon, and then he releases that he has a saucer. I mean, that just doesn't fit. That doesn't fit. I had a little business, little truck and trailer business, and I was putting a trailer hitch on a guy's Jeep one time, and I looked up at his license plate. Gosh, I was in the state Senate then, so this is probably what I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, and it said New Mexico. And I said, "Hey," I said, you ever heard of Roswell?" Just sort of, he goes, "Yeah." He said, "My dad," he didn't say my dad was in the Air Force. He said, "My dad was in the Air Corps," which is what it was before. And he was an older guy. And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Well, what did was he around, with all that UFO stuff?" He goes, Yeah. I mean, he gave me this story about how that it wasn't one that he said what they had thought was there was a midair collision, and this craft had hit there, and one went somewhere else. And I've read other reports. I'm not sure if it was a continent away, but at that speed, that's not totally out of the realm of possibility if that in fact what happened. But I just think there's a lot more out there on stuff like that, and we've covered it up, and people have died, and it's been redacted, and and there again, we're going to have to find something, whether it's from an archaeological dig or something that's going to have to get out quick before the government can do what they always do, where they come there and they cordon it off, and then it's a national security, and then you say something about it and you're crazy, and and I get that, but I'm over that. We're past that at this point. The only reason they want to do it is control. Blake, Reagan said something one time, and I thought this was pretty profound. He said, and I'm a fan of Reagan's, but he said something to the effect that could you imagine if something did appear from outer space, we would immediately, our focus would not be on some dictator overseas in Europe. We would focus on something else, and that would put a lot of people out of business. And that's what you have members of Congress and leadership making a 76% return on their investment. I mean, and it's primarily military if you look at it, and it's all legit. It's all legal. Doesn't mean it's right. All my money is in mutual funds, and I got
there's big money in War Machine.
And the best business.
Interesting. This Tic Tac. Again, I got a few more questions for you, but do you think it's possible? Like again, this private corporation might be testing their technology against the best of the best, our Navy pilots. Again, why not test it against them? And then we act like we don't know what it is, blame it on ET. And
if they have a collision, you got a problem.
Might be in trouble.
Yeah. You see a big fireball in the sky and somebody doesn't come home to their little girl or their wife, and they gotta cover. And cover-ups today are not like they used to be. There's too much. I mean, Google Earth. I mean, it's just too much. And I would say, I've thought about that too. And I thought, well, maybe they do it and then the military doesn't really consult with these folks that are over it. I mean, because if they did, they'd have to know about it. But the limited airspace in them. But you're talking. Some of these people have stated that they have regular encounters with these craft. Regular encounters. So
are we engaging them with firepower? Are we shooting at them?
No, we're not. I don't know with something that can turn a 90-degree. I've talked to a pilot. Gosh, I don't know, about a month ago, and he said, "Look, Tim," he said, you'd be basically a catch-up package with our technology. If you're in a plane and it pulls those kind of G's at that kind of speed, you're gone. I mean, you're liquefied. He said,
so would the ship too. The ship would crunch upon itself as well. But it's apparently, according to the pilots, that's exactly what it's doing. Exactly. And maybe they figure something out, some kind of field, plasmic field. Who knows? I'm not a physicist, but
that's what as I've talked to some folks who are much more not, and I tried to understand it honestly, Blake. I just don't grasp it. I'm not that. It took me 6 years to get out of the University of Tennessee, and I didn't drink or smoke pot. My dad was dealing. It took me 6 years, man.
I feel sorry for you, man.
To get a 4-year degree. Oh, I enjoyed it, dude. I had a great time, man. But my dad was dean of student conduct. There was no shenanigans. My brother and sister were both good looking and great athletes and very smart, and I got none of that. So they all went on to honorable professions, and I went to Congress. So that's kind of.
So as a congressman, what kind of power do you have as far as a lawmaker? Because there's an authority that recovered some film in 1957 in Edwards Air Force Base. Our astronaut Gordon Cooper said that a flying saucer landed down there, is all captured on film, glossies, and then it was taken somewhere. Who's the authority in possession of this film? Obviously, it's there. What kind of power can you do to request this information that's been stored away?
I can request it, but if they don't know about it, as those men who were over the committee, I don't think they know jack squat about UFOs or UAPs. But there was some in the National Defense Authorization Bill that actually passed tonight out of the House. They approved, and I'm going to read this if that's all right. The House just approved an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to establish a secure system for reporting UAPs. The system will receive reports of any event relating to UAPs and related government activity. It calls for immediate sharing of UAP information that was previously blocked by non-disclosure agreements. And it mandates an initial report be sent to congressional committees outlining the system and requires annual reports to Congress. Of course, if they go to the secret committees and you don't have the people asking the right questions, this is just paper, which is a lot of what Washington is. And I warn people, that, and I'm guilty of this too. We want our pizzas in 30 minutes or less, and that's about our dadgum attention span. We got to keep the pressure on, Blake, because if people
Yeah.
like you are not talking about this and saying, where are we at on this? Where are we not asking questions, and why, and who's to blame for it? Then we're not going to hear anything. I'm not going to quit fighting for transparency. I think that's the thing, and we ought to push the media with it.
Well, the
Frankly,
media is failing in all ends of the aspects of this phenomenon. Again, they're only dealing, they're the media and they're only dealing with the military videos, which again, I said earlier, don't amount to much. And they're refusing to take any footage from the public. And if they do any footage from the public, they're just sharing CGI videos, phone applications.
yeah.
They know they're fake videos and they're refusing to.
Yeah.
And they're not liable anymore. The media is not liable anymore. They could tell us whatever they want.
Disinformation is a big business in this town, and discrediting people like myself is what they do, Blake. I have no doubt that there's a file on me somewhere that they say, let's keep an eye on this guy. Let's make sure. But when I get a phone call, I have to be very careful that I'm not been given false information, so I come out and it discredits me. And I have to be real careful of that, because I've met with people. I've had people call me that want me to see something. I was like, man, I don't want to end up in somebody's freezer, and be on Craigslist or something, selling my body parts. But, because you got to be real careful about this stuff. And I think, again, we're just going to have some luck, and somebody's going to have to come forward. But right now, it's the hottest it's been. If we could get a president in there, I honestly thought Trump was the guy. I thought he was going to push the buttons.
Wouldn't he have been the guy to arrive in the Tic Tac at the White House and go, look, we cracked the code. We reverse engineered this stuff from Roswell.
All he knows is what he's been told. He has people around him. There's enough people in this town now that I know that can maybe push those buttons with a president, that we can get something, I think, done. I'm not sure if this president, because I hate to say it, but I question his cognitive ability right now. I'm not. Yeah. But I think with the next president we get will be something that there'll be some closed door meetings, and we need to chase it down. All we can do, all we got.
How about chasing it down, and me and you go and start knocking on Area 51's gate and say, hey, look, let us in. I'm a congressman, and here's the camera guy, Blake, right behind you, and we'd be filming all this. Yeah. How do we make this happen? Have you been to Area 51? Can you get to Area 51? Is it possible?
I suspect I can. I was
really?
I had a conversation about it tonight. I have a security clearance. I mean, I've got the security
question
clearance.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So you got above top secret?
Well, when you're in Congress, you're given a top secret clearance, I believe is what it's called. And so, but you got to know the right questions to ask and who to ask them. And I suspect Area 51 is.
I know the location.
Oh, I do too. I can find it pretty easy. I can find it on a map, but what I'm afraid is that it's been pretty much scrubbed. There's other areas. I think we've got to have some people in there and we got to have a president with the guts to say, in fact, when they say no, we're not, you don't have access, and you say, the hell I don't. And what you got to do is threaten funding too. You got to have somebody that says, and we got to be in, I've been in Congress for 3 years. So I'd tell you, I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress, and there's only 435 of us. There's about 430. The Lord and the FBI keep taking members out. So my numbers have gone up, but we've got to get some other people. And we're asking, I think I've got the right people if we can get the right person in the White House.
There you go. And was that another 2.5 years or so longer?
Yeah, I know.
Time ahead of us.
That gives them a lot of time to cover stuff up, but it also gives us enough time to be able to ask the right questions.
Well, if you need any help, we have a lot of connections. I think we could point you in the right directions on a lot of things. I know there's a lot of these projects that they got names that we don't even know their names, so you don't even know what project to ask for. Certain locations where some of the evidence could be.
There's bodies and organizations within government I never even knew existed that have a pretty extensive payroll, and so we gotta we got to know which ones to ask the questions of, and that's the key. Because we can, like I said, those two guys that testified, I think they're patriotic Americans. I don't think they lied. I just don't think they know. And I think what we'll end up doing is putting some world-renowned astrophysicist in charge of this that has no idea, can't spell UFO, or UAP, and that's where we'll end up. And they'll say we got the top guy in the world, and all the media and all the the education community, the intelligentsia, so to speak, will, this guy's wonderful or gal's wonderful. This is who we got. They know more about astrophysics, and they'll come out and say we don't know what it is, and then that'll be it. And they'll go, wow, the government's saying we don't know what it is. Well, they've already been saying that, but it's just they're just going to repackage it. And I think we've got to get serious, and we've got to push the button, push the envelope.
We've spoken with Avi Loeb and a few of the insiders over there working closely with the Galileo project. They're confident they're going to capture the UAP UFO within 2 years on their lens. They're still developing the software and the telescope technology in order to do it. But again, as I asked earlier, NASA or Galileo project, if they were to capture something in our solar system, like a craft approaching Earth, would they be able to get that out to the public right away, or would national security kick in?
It depends on who's funding them and what kind of contract they have. Again, I think it's going to have to be somebody who's going to have to leak it. Somebody's going to have to leak it and just put it out.
And risk prosecution.
Yeah, but part of this, what I push for is reciprocity. I mean, not reciprocity. Excuse me. I'm on 1 hour of sleep.
I'll let you go. I know you've been working hard, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Great work. Thank you.
I don't know if you call it work or not, but anyway, but no, we're going to have people, these pilots are going to have to be given some sort of immunity that they will not be prosecuted, or anybody else really. And, during the meeting, they said these craft went underwater, and then they said,
transmedium craft.
Right. And they said, well, we need to, and we'll talk about that in the closed meeting, in the confidential meeting. And everybody's like, there it is. There's the cover up. Well, not really. Anything on a sub, I mean, the washers on the bolts are probably classified just because of the nature of that. And our sonar, underwater detection, underwater radar sonar, is probably something that's pretty high tech and it's pretty secret. And that's probably more or less what that was. What they were talking about there. What fascinated me was if those craft, I've seen the videos, and I'm not sure whether they went underwater or not. The pilots seem to think they did, but they did not lose any. They didn't lose any velocity, and there was no heat trail, and it just, what is the propulsion from these things? It's got to be like, I don't think I can think of as electromagnet, but I just don't know.
Electrogravitics and supercavitation. We've got all the words, and you might want to call it meta propulsion, because the meta is we got to find out what the meta is, and we kind of dubbed that with a physicist friend of ours named Alex Gershwitz, who sits on the head of the Galileo and works with him. So maybe the meta propulsion could be brought in, and we got to find out what that is. But do you think we're going to find out soon within our lifetimes? Are we going to get to find out the big questions here? Are we going to be able to maybe see the bodies? Where are the bodies from Roswell? That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I think there was some misinformation that probably the government put out to send us
purposely.
I think so. I think that we've touched a nerve, and but it's not like it used to be. And they used to have been told the only way you keep a secret in this town is if two people know it, one of them gets killed. And so, we got to get to them before that happens.
That's right. And the time's ticking, as you said. And we got a few more years with this president. Hopefully, he takes some initiative in regards to asking the big questions. As a congressman, and maybe your fellowship of congressmen, your friends, is there more power in, unification through friends?
Yeah,
Are you
there
getting
is.
other congressmen on this topic?
But we're very jealous by nature. And if somebody's getting more than somebody else, that's what I almost think if just some independent person pulls it out and then and the American public just demands, hey, we got to know. And the president demands, hey, I want to know what the hell's going on. Somebody's going to lose their job. And I mean it right now. And they can wring their hands and say, this is national security, which I'm pretty sure is what they've done to shut presidents up in the past, or just either lied or, the skunk works kind of thing, and just kept them from knowing, because there's no other reason for it not to be out.
Are we going to have more UFO Congress hearings coming up in the future here?
I doubt it.
That last one was about as bad as you get as a PowerPoint presentation.
It's pitiful, man. It's pitiful. That's how I actually got some information. Somebody saw me on there that knew me, said, hey, I've got this information I want to share with you. And I'm trying to get it analyzed. So we'll see what we got. I've talked to people that have handled material. Sorry, they're closing up. I'm sorry, that'll beep a couple more times.
That's all right.
But no, I've talked to people that have handled material, that have stated that it is something different, that they could break it down pretty much into what it was, but how it was layered and how it was attached, or without blending too much, was still a mystery. And
is this crash retrieval? Is this crash retrieval?
They thought it was, but there again, you have to be real careful with that stuff, because if you'll spend $1 million chasing something and analyzing it, and it's something that's been created in a lab, and they just trying to chase us down the wrong path.
We got private friends in the industry that'd be more than happy to look at that stuff, and we don't have to waste taxpayers' money on it either.
Well,
we can all talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, this wasn't taxpayer money, but the deal was that it was, it just didn't make any sense, really, the way it was done, and the technology was not there to do it.
Yeah.
At that time. So, but all that's great, but that's not what's going to turn the needle. We need a craft. We need a craft, and we need a picture, a well-defined picture, and somebody has to say, it is here, and here it is. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. But these corporations, if they do, in fact, these corporations they don't have borders. They got slave labor all over the country. It's just, these battery manufacturers and things like that, they wouldn't allow that in this country. And they shouldn't allow it anywhere, but they've got all kinds of money and influence all over the world, Blake. And we've got, and so if they have it, it's going to be very difficult to get it. I just think until a president, somebody of that stature, just says enough's enough and pulls these people in and said, you're out, I'm calling a press conference, and I'm going to tell everything I know. Let's get it on.
Throw your hat in for the presidential race. We'll vote for you, Tim.
Yeah, I die of lead poisoning. About that much.
There you go. All right, Tim. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for giving us some time right here at Third Phase Moon. I know it's been a long day, but hopefully we can catch up with you sometime in the future, discuss more things. Again, we receive videos from the public on a daily basis. A lot of them are compelling. I don't know if we could send a couple over to you. We have reference, we have location, we have the data behind it. And I don't know, put it in the right hands, or maybe put it in the media's hands, because the media is not showing the public's evidence. And there's a lot of it out there.
I would love to be a conduit for you, Blake, and I'll get you an email address once we're off the air, and then we'll see what we can do. Let's
shake things up, Tim. Appreciate it, man. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon, Tim. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Be good. Talk to you soon.